Good morning, sir. Hello, sir. Hello.
Morning to all of you and hope you are all doing good, guys. Please always write your numbers so that we can. Now, today we'll discuss about the Greece crisis. What is the Greece crisis? How the Greece crisis happened? What was the logic related to the Greece crisis? And what were the problems which were faced related to the Greece crisis? So, the Greek debt crisis is the dangerous amount of sovereignty bond that they have taken because Greece owned the European Union between 2008 and 10. So from 2008 to 2018, Greece had taken money from European Union. Greece said that it might default on its debt, threatening the visibility of Eurozone itself. Now see, this is what the problem it is. Now European Union is a part of an organization, it is a part of a structure. Now this part of an organization and structure is designed in such a manner that at a given point of time, from the business point of view, this kind of viability do matter at the end of the day. So Greece was a part of it. Greece money, and now Greece said that we are not in a position to pay back. So it is but default that it will go to crisis, and when Greece will fall, all the connected economies will also fall by it by the same time. So this is what one of the realistic problem it is from the business point of view. To avoid the debt, European Union loaded a Greece enough to continue making the payments. Now, European Union understood that at that time, if the economy will crush down, then at a given point of time, from the business point of view, one of the most important parameters that is they have to survive, and in order to survive, they need money. So Greece gave more money. Sorry, European Union gave more money to Greece in order to survive. Since the debt crisis began in 2010, various European authorities and private investors have loaned Greece nearly 320 US billion, sorry, 320 billion euros. Try to understand. From 2010, such a heavy amount was given to them, but then also they were not able to survive. It was the biggest financial rescue from the bankruptcy in the history, it is said. That all the countries used to face this problem, but if you look at the history point of view, whatever the money was given to Greece in order to survive in the market for a longer period of time, these were the problems. As of January 2019, Greece has only repaid 41.6 billion euros. It has scheduled to debt payment beyond 2060. Just imagine, they are going to pay back after 2060. So more almost 30 years plus to go from today. So can you understand the pressure? So as on January 2019, they had only paid 14.6 million euros. Now this is a problem. And now they are planning to pay it 2060. Now try to understand, these kinds of managements are very dangerous in the nature. In return for the loan, the European Union required Greece to adopt austerity measures. Now, what are these austerity measures? These reforms were intended to strengthen the Greek government and financial structure. They did it and almost mirrored Greece in the reassuration not in 2017. And then the follow-up started taking place. The crisis triggered the Eurozone debts. Now, this is another problem. The crisis at a given point of triggered this. Now, when you are talking about austerity measures, are reduction in government spending, increase in taxes on both ways. That is known as the austerity measures. So basically, what happens is here the economy tries to become strong. Governments are likely to use austerity measures unless forced to do the bondholders or the lenders. So if your lenders are telling you, then you have to do it because you have to see to it that the development happens. The crisis triggered the Eurozone debt crisis. creating a fear that it would spread into global financial conditions. Now try to understand, when one country will fall, all the connected countries will fall, and all the other countries which are doing import and export business with them, they will also fall at a given point of time. So these are the practical hurdles from the organization structure point of view, which is really creating a problem. And these are the real massive crises which has actually disturbed the market. So from the management aspect point of view, when you are talking about doing the things and working upon the same, these are all the parameters which practically do create a problem. So in order to overcome this problem at a given point of time, when these steps are taken, the fundamental logic is very clear. So when this kinds of things happens, certain parameters should be taken. It is one of the fate of other heavily in-depth European members. The massive crisis was triggered by a country whose economic output was no bigger than the US state, the Connect portion also. So what is this Greece crisis all about? In 2009, budget deficit of 50% of GDP was found. They were lacking by 15%. Fear of the debt widened. Bond spread and ultimately led to collapse of the Greece economy. And finally, what the money they had taken from the outside market, unfortunately, from the business point of view, it failed. This would shut down the Greece ability to finance further debt repayments. The below highlights in the red period that in 10 years the government bore yields by 35% until the vast debt restructuring was taken care from the shareholders' point of view. The European Union leaders struggled to agree on the solution. Greece wanted European Union to forgive some of the debt, but EU did not say that that is not practically possible. Now try to understand that when you have taken the money from the foreign market, you cannot tell them that I am not able to pay, so please forgive me. In the international markets, from the emerging markets, if this kind of activity will happen, Ahmed, you can write your number. So what happens in this condition at a given point of time? These kinds of measures are taken. And when these kinds of measures are taken from the business point of view, they are very conscious in taking the steps. Because everything at the end of the day definitely matters. Because what happens from the business perspective point of view, when this kinds of changes takes place, no, there are a lot of issues also in the international market as such. So what are these international issues? The biggest lender were the Germany and its bankers. So you can understand, Germany anyways dominate the European Union, and Germany is the one who, from the business point of view, had given a lot of money to Europe. They championized the authenticity measures. They said that this can be implemented. They believe that the measures would improve the Greece competitive advantage in the global market. And the austerity measures required Greece to improve how it to manage its public finance also. And it had to modernize its financial statistics and reporting. It lowered the rate barriers, increasing the export. So these were the efforts which was insisted by the German economy, because they had paid a lot of money, they wanted their money back. So they said they do all these things, it will help you. Most importantly, the measure required Greece to reform its pension system. This was very much important because a lot of money goes for paying the people. So pension payment had absorbed 17.5% of GDP, higher than in any other European countries. So this is what the level it is. Public pensions were 9% underfunded compared to 3% for other nations, and authenticity measures required Greece to cut down the pension by 1% of the GDP. So the huge amount will be cut down. It also required higher pension contributors by employee and limit their earlier retirement. So basically now, in order to safeguard them, they are working on their pension schemes. When they are working on their pension schemes, what is going to happen from the business point of view? From the business point of view, from the marketing aspect point of view, when you will try to cut down your cost as much as possible during the crisis, you will be able to manage it properly. You will be in that practical position at a given point of time to manage the things. So all these factors at the end of the day, they practically do matter. Workers weren't thrilled paying contributions, so seniors received their higher pensions. So this is the way they were trying to manage. Half of the Greece household relied on the pension income, since out of 5 Greece were 65 older people now. See, this is what the problem it is. Now you are planning to cut down the cost. Now, when you will plan to cut down the cost on them, what is going to happen? It is going to disturb their economy. It is going to disturb the mindset of the people. And when it is going to disturb the economy and the mindset of the people, there are a lot of challenges also which will take place. The austerity measures force the government to cut down spending and increase taxes. They cost 72 billion rupees euros to the 40% of the GDP. Now, these are the other measures. Government to cut down their expenditure and increase their income by taxes. When they will do this, what they will get in return? 40% of their GDP will be saved. That is 72 millions is what they are targeting. As a result, the Greece economy shrank by 25%. That reduced the tax revenue needed to repay the debt. Unemployment went high by 25% and hit down to 50%. So imagine in one country when 50% of the people are just sitting idle, they don't have the right kind of jobs. What kind of problems they will face, what kind of issues they will face at a given point of time. So this is what we have to understand from the management aspect point of view, that when one system goes wrong at a one particular point of time, at the end of the day, it will have a huge negative impact. And this huge negative impact will create a lot of issues. Writing the broke over in the streets, the political system was uphill as a voters turned out to anyone who promised them the penniless ways out. So basically, the whole political system was also disturbed. And when this kinds of disturbance happens, try to understand it impacts the economy very badly. It hits the economy so badly at a given point of time that unfortunately you don't have any options. Now, when you don't have any options at a given point of time, what will happen is, even if you will keep on working on it, even if you keep on trying to develop it, at the end of the day, it will not give you anything. So these are all the practical limitations. The results are mixed in 2017. Greece ran out of budget surplus of 0.8%. Its economy grew by 1.4%, but employment was still 22%. Now try to understand. Whatever the improvement was done, it was only mere on the percentage basis. It was not that much. So these are the practical limitations. 1/3 of the population. One second. 1/3 of their population, they were living below poverty line. So even that time also the condition was not proper. And the debt to GDP ratio was 182%. Now try to understand, you have taken 1 rupees from me, and now in for that 1 rupees, if you have to pay 182 rupees, then what will you do? What will be your condition? What will happen to you? You won't be in the position to pay me back. From the timeline perspective point of view, in 2009, Greece announced its budget deficit would be 12.9% of the GDP. And that more than 4 times of the European Union limit. So European Union had already given them the limit, but they have crossed the limit almost 3 times higher. Rating agencies like Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's lowered the Greece credit rating. They scared of the investors and raised the cost for the further loans. Now, this happened in 2009. See what happened? The economy was crashed. These international agencies, they wrote a lot of things about this. So the investors who were there in the Greece, they started taking the money out. And eventually, it created a huge problem. In 2010, Greece announced a plan to lower its deficit to 3% of the GDP in 2 years. Now try to understand. This is not a joke. Greece announced a plan to lower its deficit to 3% of the GDP in 2 years. And Greece attempted to reassure the European lenders it was fiscally responsible for it. Just 4 months later, Greece instead of warning that it might go for the default. Now see, this is what the condition it is. In 2010 only, they decided that now they are not in the position to pay and they might go off. Now that is a threat to all the countries which are connected to them. The European Union and the IMF provided 240 billion euros in the emergency fund in return of austerity measures. Now I have told you what is austerity measures. Measures taken by government to see to it that they increase the tax and they decrease the expenditure. With the help of European Union and IMF, they provided 240 billion euros. The loan only gave Greece enough money to pay the interest on its existing debt and keep the bank capitalization. So only the money with such a huge amount which was given, no, it was only to manage their economy and nothing else. Now see, these are all the practical limitations from the management aspects. Now all these limitations, they actually play a vital role from the business point of view. The loan was given, the European Union had no choice but to stand behind its member by funding its bailout. Now it is a compulsory thing that we are in a group and one of the countries is dying, then we have to stand behind you because we don't have any choice at a given point of time. Otherwise, it would face the consequences of Greece either leaving the Eurozone or defaulting. So there can be two things. Greece will say that we want to be independent country now. That is a problem for them. Or the second thing, which problem they have is they will say we are defaulters. So in both that things, the economy is going to get disturbed. Authenticity measures require Greece to increase the rate of the tax and the corporate tax rate. So both the things, they are practically one of the biggest loopholes, and it definitely creates the problem. It had to close the tax loopholes. It increased an independent tax collector to reduce tax evasion. It reduces incentives for the earlier retirement. So whatever they could in order to curb down their expenditure, they did the most. And it raised workers' contribution to the pension system. At the same time, it reduced the wages of the lower cost of the goods and boost the economy. And the measure required the Greece of privatizing the things such as electricity transmission and other limited things. So they did everything. But the problem was, are they in that practical position then also to survive at a given point of time? So why was the European Union so harsh on them? Because it is a common sense that a lot of money had gone from their pocket. Now you take billions of rupees from me and then you expect me to become sophisticated. That is not practically possible. European leaders and the bond rating agencies wanted to make sure Greece wouldn't use the new debt to pay off the old one. So that is also practically possible. Germany, Poland, Swiss Republic, Portugal, Ireland, Spain had already used the austerity measures to strengthen their own economies at a given point of time. Since they were paying for the bailouts, they wanted Greece to follow these particular examples. Some European countries like Slovakia and Lithuania refused to ask their taxpayers to dig into their pockets to lead the Greece off the hook. Now that is also a practically position which can happen, guys. That when you are dying, no, actually in the life there is nobody to help you. Then you can have a problem at a definitely given point of time. So that is 100% possible and it can happen. These countries have just endured their own austerity measures to avoid bankruptcy with no help from European Union. So even they also started implementing the same. They also wanted to be safe. They also wanted to see to it that everything will happen properly at a given point of time. So whatever the efforts that they were taking, they mattered a lot. In 2011, the European Financial Stability Facility added 190 billion euros to the bailout process. Despite the name change, the money also came from European unions. So this is what one of the most dangerous thing it is. By 2012, bondholders finally agreed to haircut. Now, haircut means to reduce down, to cut it down. See, we have studied when I was explaining you this concept that bondholders eventually they will cut down the holdings, exchange 77 billion euros in the bonds for the debt of worth 75% less. So this can also happen. In 2014, Greece economy appeared to be recovering. As it grew 0.7%, government successfully sold the bond and balanced the budget. So now eventually they are trying to come up with the right kind of measures. Now when this right kinds of measures are taken, there are a lot of factors you need to understand. That it is not just one party, but it is multiple parties which is creating a problem. Both sides. In 2015, voter elected the Syrian party to fight and hated austerity measures. On June 27, Greece Prime Minister Alexis announced referendum on these measures. He falsely promised that no vote would go to Greece, more leverage to negotiate 30% of the debt with the European Union, and the mismanagement happened. So see, when you do not have that much of revenue and once one system collapses, no, all that connected systems by default will start falling down. So you have to take a lot of measures. This is pure political discussion. Both the sides called the delay and no official default. 2 days later, IMF warned the Greece need to pay 60 billion euros in the new aid. It told creditors to take the further write-downs on more than 300 billion euros they owned them at a given point of time. So these are the practical issues, guys. These are the practical problems from the business point of view. On 5th July, Greece voted no austerity measures. The instability created run of the banks. Greece sustained extensive economic damage during the 2 weeks of surrounding by the vote. Bank closed down. 60 million dollar per price was charged. It threatened tourism industry when the season was very high. The tourism industry fell down by $14 billion. So you can see all this fall which happened had a drastic impact. The European Central Bank agreed to recapitalize Greek bank by 10 billion euros to 25 billion euros, allowing them to reopen. So these are the problems which are. Now, when one country will face the problem, all the connected people with them by default will be in the problem. So if you remember, since last 2-3 class, we are studying different case studies. And these different case studies which are there, they are showing us that what happens when the financial crises are very high, because then to manage those financial crises it practically becomes very difficult. Bank imposed a 420 euros weekly limit to withdrawal process that prevented the disposers from draining their account and worsening the problem, and even the problem got to a high level that bank imposed 420 euros weekly limit on the withdrawal. So below, above that, if anybody wants to withdraw as a customer, the money was not available with them. So how to survive? So a time came in the Greece where the normal food items were also not available by paying a high price. So these are all the practical limitations. It also helped reduce the tax evasion, and people turned debt to crisis card to purchase. As a result, the federal revenue increased by €1. On 15th July, the Greece parliament passed the austerity measures despite the referendum. And then they eventually tried to settle down the case. Now try to understand, when this kinds of problems happens, all these points are interconnected. And then there is a lot of time span which is given. We'll just change the year to get the highlight. In March 2016, Bank of Greece predicted the economy would return to the growth by the particular summer. It only shrank by 0.2% in 2015. But the Greece bank were still losing the money, and they were reluctant to call it a bad debt, believing that their borrowers will repay. But try to understand that will never happen. This story happened in 2016. The fall was only by 0.5%, but then also at a given point of time, this was not genuine. On June 17, European Union Stability Mechanism disturbed 7.5 billion euros to Greece, and it plans to use the funds to pay interest on the particular debt. So Greece continued with this particular measures, and then they opened the things for the privatization process. In 2017, Trespera agreed to cut down pension and broaden the tax base. In return, the EU loaded Greece another 860 billion. So they were able to manage. And Greek used to pay more debt for the payment perspective point of view. And Tresima, the prime minister, hoped that his contrary tone would help him to reduce 293 billion euros out of a particular debt, which was practically not possible. But the German government would concede much before in September in the presidential election. And then there was a huge revolution. So now see, when this kinds of changes takes place, there are a lot of issues related to it. On 15th January 2018, the Greek parliament agreed on new austerity measures to qualify on the next round of bailouts. On January 22, the Eurozone's finance minister approved 6 to 7 billion euros. And then eventually they were able to manage. So these are all the real kinds of limitations that you will face. You can see the highlights. European Financial Stability Mechanism and European Stability Mechanism gave 168 billion euros. Eurozone government has 53 billion euros. Private investors are 34 billion euros. Greek government bolds 15 billion euros. IMF 12 billion. European Central Bank 13 euros. So now imagine how will you pay this debt at a given point of time. Why Greece did not leave the Eurozone? This is a very important question you should ask. Now, before reading this, you should understand that if Greece would have come out, everything would have got damaged. Greece could have abandoned the euro and reinstalled the damage. Without the austerity measures, the Greek government could have hired new workers and it would have lowered the 25% of unemployment rate, boosted the economic growth. Greece could have converted into euro-based debt, printed more currency and able to manage, but they did not do it. At the first, it would seem ideal for the Greece, but the foreign on Greece debt would have been suffering from the huge prospective point of view, and it would have definitely damaged their markets. So these are all the factors which are there. I have copied for you. If you are interested, you can. I'll anyways send it to you. But by that time, now I just want to share one small video with you so that whatever we studied in the theoretical aspect, you will have one practical viewpoint also. So yesterday when I was talking to Mohammad, he said, sir, it is easy to understand from video. So I was able to get it. And I will show it to you also. Just look at this. This is about the European crisis, the Greece crisis to be very precise.
Yet valuable lessons are to be had by exploring their causes and effects. After all, in a world of ever-changing rules, products, and services, history is the one constant that can guide us through the ambiguity. So let's take a 5-minute history lesson on today's Plain Bagel. It's 1999, and the Greek government is in a bit of a pickle. The European Union has just launched a fancy new currency, the euro, that will be shared by its members. But even though Greece is part of the EU, they left off the invite. You see, despite massive tax evasion problems, the Greek government has been spending to boost social benefits and wages, which has caused their debt to GDP to rise well above...
See, just now what I discussed, that in order to do good for the people, Greece is giving a lot of money. But as per their income of GDP, the debt ratio is very high. My income is 10 rupees and I am spending 7 rupees on my old people. So it is actually a problem.
6% required to adopt the currency. So now they must decide between cutting back spending or missing out on the Eurozone party. Unless, of course, there's a third option. You see, Goldman Sachs, an American investment bank, comes along with an idea. A way to meet the currency adoption criteria by masking the government's debt load through currency swaps. It involves a bit of lying, but this way the country can avoid radical reforms and reap the benefits of the euro. A win-win. So Greece gives it a shot, using the sleight of hand to adopt the currency in 2001. And sure enough, the sun pays off. The currency brings with it more trade. And since the euro allows Greece to piggyback off the financial strength of its fellow Eurozone members, the government gains access to better financing, enough to even bring the Olympics home for 2004. Sure, the GDP continues to rise above 110%, and things are a little precarious, but hey, the economy is growing, there's plenty of EU money funding the budget deficit, and so long as things keep rolling, everything will be... Ha! That's not good. Looks like a real estate crisis in the US has triggered a global recession. It's hitting Greece like a train.
Now the problem he's coming about, earlier part he explained about the history. Now you see when everything was going up, of course their GDPs were a little bit down. There was matter to be worried at that point of time, but then also, now you see what kind of changes takes place.
GDP is falling as tourism and shipping slow down, with the Athens Stock Exchange plummeting 65% in 2008. Worse yet, borrowing costs are increasing. Oh, and that shared currency we fought so hard for? Well, it's preventing Greece from stabilizing through monetary policy. And just in case things didn't look bad enough, surprise, in 2009, it's revealed that the government has been cooking the books, and its budget deficit is not 6.7%, but double that.
Now see, they have manipulated their books also. So the loss was 12 rupees, you have shown 6 rupees loss. So 50% loss, you have not shown it. Now imagine when the right thing will come out, what will happen? What kind of issues will happen? What kind of problems will jump upon? So all these issues at a given point of time, they definitely do matter. And it will definitely create a problem at a given point of time.
Whoops. I mean, more than double the original estimate. Borrowing costs skyrocket as the entire country's credibility is smashed like a plate on the floor. OPA. On April 27, 2010, with a debt to GDP of 127%.
Now see, in 2010, they had a debt of 127 to their GDP. So 1 rupees had to pay 127 rupees. Now when this kind of problem arises, then you have to take right kind of calls. And if right kinds of calls are not taken at the right time, it turns into issue.
Then the country's credit rating is dropped to junk, plummeting Greece towards default as it begins to drown in its pile of public debt. But look, on the horizon. Is it the bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a buttload of money. The Troika, a group consisting of 2 EU entities and the International Monetary Fund, has come to bail Greece out in a bid to save the EU from the ramifications of a Greek default. Here's the plan. Lend Greece 110 billion euros to avoid default, use the bailout money to pay off expensive creditors, get the government to commit to higher taxes and lower spending to bring
Did you see, he's talking the same thing what we discussed. One of the party came into picture to save the Greece. Fixed money was decided. Money will be given. Greece will be able to pay the debts. Now the deficits will be less, surplus will be high. They will increase the taxes and they will try to manage their economy.
Into a surplus and wait for this recession to blow over. So on May 2nd, 2010, the Troika tosses Greece a lifeline and damn. The bailout doesn't quite fix the problem. In fact, the austerity measures have put further pressure on GDP.
Now see, giving help actually disturbed more GDP and there was a lot of disturbance.
Our debt to GDP up to 172%.
From 127 it went to 172. You can see the change in the numbers. So just by supplying the extra money, always remember guys that the problems are not solved. There are a lot of practical issues to it.
By 2011, with creditors quickly draining the bailout funds.
Just now I told you a couple of minutes back. Now, because of that, the Standard Poor's and Moody's international rating, everybody started talking negative. So investors also started pulling the money out from the Greece. And then you see what kind of problem can happen.
This is bad. And the Troika realized that more drastic measures are required. So they devised a new plan. Give Greece another 130 billion euros, negotiate with creditors to cut the country's IOU by 50%.
See, now the other is again pay them the money. See to it that the creditor cut down their cost by minus 53%. So this kind of measures to be taken.
3.5%. Get the government to commit to further austerity measures to bring the country back into a surplus and wait for this depression to blow over. So on February 21st, 2012, the Troika prepares the largest sovereign debt restructuring in history, tosses Greece its second lifeline, and success! The program grabs a hold, and after 2 years of further tax reforms, layoffs, and wage cuts, the government reports a structural surplus. But wait, Greece is starting to fight back. You see, the Troika's bill terms, they're hoping the government get a handle on it.
See, the second time it was successful and they were able to manage their economy. Now, these are all the legal steps that you need to understand. If not taken at the right time, definitely it will create issues.
That are causing unrest at home. With Greece bearing the burden of falling wages, rising taxes, and unemployment above 25%. So when the stop election occurs in 2015, the people break over 40 years of two-party rule and elect a new anti-austerity party to office in a bid for change. The new Prime Minister promises to boost spending and throw down the gauntlet to Troika to renegotiate terms, raising tensions between government and Troika until the country's lifeline snaps and... Ladies and gentlemen, all hell breaks loose. Creditors
everything was proper. Just because of this political instability and the unwanted commitment, they have actually destroyed their image in the world market. And then it converted into problem.
Again, a liquidity crisis emerges, with fear gripping the country amid concerns of Brexit, Greece's departure from the EU. Negotiations with the Troika fall through as even its members clash. And on June 30th, 2015, with the government unable to secure any further debt relief, Greece defaults, missing a 1.6 billion euro debt payment.
Now see, they lost 1.6 billion euros saying that we don't have anything in our pocket. In 2015, this dangerous activity took place.
To the IMF, the first developed country to ever do so. The foundation of Greece's economy begins to crack as the government shuts down its stock exchange and banking system. Greeks continue to fight against the new bailout proposed by the EU, but at this point, with the country in financial purgatory, Brexit inching closer, and no more leverage for negotiation, on July 16th, a very desperate government throws in the towel, grabbing a hold of the EU's third lifeline and accepting an 86 billion euro bailout in August.
Third time, 86 billion euros were given just to save the economy.
And so, with the fight to boost spending needing a dramatic end, the Greek will prepare once again for a round of cuts, reforms, and hard times ahead. All in, the economy will shrink 25% as a result of the crisis. And while Greece has since finished its bailout program, the country to this day maintains a debt to GDP of 181%.
Still, the debt GDP ratio is 181, guys, in 2009. This is not a joke. After doing all these things, paying you 3 times billions of rupees, but you are not able to manage the economy, that means there is some problem on your side.
And Greek people continue to suffer, with 1 in 3 Greeks at risk of living in poverty. It goes to show the terrible consequences of fiscal mismanagement. And as Greece continues down its road to recovery, let us not forget the valuable and devastating case study it provided. Thanks for watching.
So these are the real problems when it comes to managing the economy. Hope this is clear from my side. So we'll keep it this much only for today. So thank you very much for connecting and we'll meet in the next class. All right. So you can leave.